Hello everyone, Justin Stivers here, owner of the Probate Law Firm. Very excited. This is the first time doing this Facebook Live, so I still don't have an official name for what we're going to call this, but basically once a week I'm going to try and bring someone in the either legal industry or just someone maybe I'm interested in speaking with that will hopefully give you all useful tips, ideas for growing your business, for marketing, and hopefully just things you find interesting. I'm very excited today to have a first guest, Miss Jane Muir, with J. Muir and Associates, and so I've known you for what, probably a year and a half, something like that, and Jane is a phenomenal attorney, and so we'll get in a little bit about her background and her practice and everything, but I want to talk a little bit and have her speak about how she's successfully been building her business from networking. I would say if you're in South Florida, if you're in Miami, especially if you're an attorney, you've seen Jane either on social media, on newsletters, at bar events. I do a lot of networking, but I pale in comparison to her. She really gets out there and hustles. So I want to talk a little bit about that and how that's impacted your business. So I guess maybe where we can start is, I know you come from a line of prestigious attorneys. Your mother is a judge, your father's a successful attorney, and your brother's a successful attorney as well. So was law in your blood? Is that how you got into it, or when did you kind of know you were going to become an attorney?
Well, I guess I was young. I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and my best friend Julie Schottenstein and I were playing together, and she said, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And I say, "Well, I don't really like blood, so I think I'll be a lawyer." And she says, "Oh, well, I like blood. I think I'll be a doctor." And she's now a surgeon and I'm a lawyer, and that's how it started.
And did you, after graduating law school, did you open your own firm, or what kind of led you to opening your own firm?
Well, I was employed at a small firm and got laid off after about 6 months of practice. And there were a couple of other opportunities that were on the horizon, but they weren't going to appear until maybe 6 months or 8 months away. And so I talked to Tom Gamba, and he said, "Jane, just start your own firm. You could do it. And you've got the drive, you've got the contacts, just go for it. And all you have to do is get an office in a shared space and try anything that people can't settle. And the next thing you know, you'll be a big shot trial lawyer like me." So if Tom's watching, you're like my law godfather, because you gave me the confidence to do it. And I have to say, at first it was very exciting. My partner at the time and we threw a big party. We got really cool business cards. And then I just kind of was terrified all the time. So it took about 6 months for me to not be curled in a ball in a fetal position, because I thought they were coming to take my bar card any second. But now I've been practicing in my own practice for about 8 years, and I'm very fearless and tough, and I think that it's like a muscle. You just build confidence by approaching problems you've never encountered before and doing the research and figuring it out.
So in the beginning, though, you said you really didn't, you kind of just jumped into it. Was there, because I know a lot of people watching, either business owners or other attorneys who want to start their own firm, but they're kind of waiting for everything to line up. They need X amount in the bank account, they're waiting to maybe learn a little bit more or have a certain amount of clients. Was there that going in your mind, or was it just you knew you could do it, just kind of jumped in?
I'd say I didn't know I could do it. I didn't know a thing. I was just totally without alternatives. So I had no choice but to start my own practice. And I thought it would be a temporary thing. And what happened was, every time I thought, I better give up, I need to get a real job at a firm, something good happened. I got a big client or a big recovery, and so I thought I could keep going.
Did your because right now you're primarily business law. Is that primarily?
Right.
Is that what you started with, or has what you do shifted at all?
It has shifted. I started orienting my practice towards personal injury because that's what I had done. And I was captain of the trial team. I wanted to try cases, and I just didn't know anything different. But after about a year of getting tiny cases with very minor injuries and doing whatever else could pay the bills, I just realized that I needed to kind of reorient the practice. So a good friend of mine, Steve Schlackman, taught me about SWOT analysis, and he came to my office and said, well, let's identify your strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats in this practice area. And strengths for personal injury I've done it for a few years, so let's call that a 3. And weaknesses are, I have no war chest, I have no big verdicts in my past that would attract more clients, I have no marketing campaign like 411 pain or
Sure.
something like that. And then opportunities, there are very few personal injury matters that involve a major injury. So few opportunities and also huge threats. I had to compete with people like Colson Hicks and Potter Storsek and Leesfield and all these really prominent and Russomano, prominent trial lawyers. I could go on. Please don't be offended, Haggard law firm, or any other brilliant PI lawyers in town, Eric Bluestein, etc. But in any case, it just seemed like there were a lot of threats and not a lot of opportunities. So I thought, well, gosh, this is obvious. I need to focus on what I'm good at. So Steve asked me, what clients are your favorite clients? And I said, well, I like sophisticated type A entrepreneurs because we speak the same language. We don't have to waste time. There's not a lot of hand-holding. Explaining basic assumptions is a challenge for me. I want to be able to skip past a lot of basic assumptions. So that's when I reconfigured my practice to orient it towards business transactions and litigation, because I'd already done it for myself. I got my firm certified as a woman-owned firm. I got all my permits for business tax receipts, certificate of use, all that kind of thing. So since I was running a business, I knew what it was like to run a business, and I thought that would be the right course for me, and it's been great.
And so I want to back up a little bit, because what I hear from your story is you did a lot of it on your own, but you also had mentors and you asked people along the way. So it wasn't completely on your own. But I know, again, I referenced, your family, a lot of attorneys, but I don't hear, that you've kind of done this on your own to some extent. I mean, you're asking people for help, but do you think that played a part, having attorneys in the family, or you think you've really kind of bootstrapped it yourself?
Oh, I definitely credit my family. My mom was really nervous for me doing this because she had her own firm for a brief while, like maybe a year, and it wasn't for her. So she was always concerned for me. Like, she would cut articles out of the newspaper and say, Jane, look, Cole Scott and Cassane is hiring. So she always wanted me to have an alternative. Sure. Because she just remembered how hard it was for her. And then my dad, he was really encouraging because he went the golden path, which was he went straight to Steele Hector, and then another really prominent law firm, Marchand Sawyer, and then after 15 years of practice or so, he and his partner started their own practice. So he's had a wonderful career in that direction, but he thought it would be great for me if I would go in the opposite direction and go small and build my practice by myself. So, after a year, I was like, Dad, I gotta quit and get a real job. And he's like, no, you can do it. It takes 2 to 5 years, just keep going. So both my parents, in their own way, have been really, really encouraging. And frankly, there have been times when they've had to help me financially.
Sure.
And like, I was ready to go bartend, and Dad was like, no, you cannot go bartend. You have to dress like a lawyer and show up to work every day and act like a lawyer, and the next thing you know, you'll be a lawyer.
Right.
So he was kind of like, fake it till you make it. And you know, if there were times like I needed my car fixed and I didn't have any ability to pay for that, he would just help me out.
Right. So how did you, kind of coming from, like you said, I think most people when they're starting their own business, most attorneys, if you're fresh out of law school, or even if you kind of make the jump like you did and you don't have a war chest or you don't have a book of business to bring with you, how did you start gaining traction? Because I know now you're very successful. You got, how many people are on your team right now? 4. So you have 4. Team is growing. Beautiful office that we're in right now, looking out water view. So you're clearly, you've made it past that initial hump of having to get money for help out with the car being fixed. Was there a turning point, or was there something you were doing or are still doing to kind of generate business? Because I know that's a question I get asked a lot is, where do your leads come from? And we've talked about it, and that's a tough question to answer because you do a lot of different things and sometimes you don't know what is working. But again, why I want to speak with you is I know networking is a big part. So I guess the question is, did you kind of start networking and that it was a slow built upon itself until you started having clients come in, or was that something you learned later down the road?
Well, I started networking right away for 2 reasons. One was my parents said what really is important is to get Martindale Hubble AV rated, and that was something that would really enhance your credibility, and the people who rate you in Martindale Hubble are other lawyers. So ergo, you need to know other lawyers. So that was one reason. But the other reason was I just didn't have anything to do. Like in my first month of practice, I got one referral from Renee Sanchez-Lawrence at Schutz & Bowen. And it was a lady who needed to escape a lease, and I earned $350 total. That was my first referral and my first thing. And I got it because I attended a networking event at Place Saint-Michel, which is now, I think, Zocca, or it's an Italian restaurant in Hotel Saint-Michel. Anyway, it was just sort of one of those things. So when you get a reward for doing something, you keep doing it. And the other reason was I was just lonely. Because when I first started my practice, I was in a virtual office in the Ocean Bank building on Lejeune. It was $100 a month, and I actually worked in the second bedroom of my apartment where I had a desk and a printer and everything. So I would wake up in the morning by myself and go to the gym and sit down at my desk by myself and be by myself all day. And I'm an extrovert, so I wanted always to be around people and to talk to people and find out what they're doing and connect with them. So I ended up going out as often as I could, breakfast, lunch, dinner, every event I could think of, and it sort of kept going from there.
And so how many years have you had your practice now?
My first practice I opened in March of 2010.
Okay, so you've had it open for a while. Do you have a kind of networking strategy, or is there a goal, or you just kind of, because I know, maybe tell us about the organizations that you've been involved in, because I know you're involved in a bunch of different things.
Yeah, as for strategy, not really. It's been, other than the idea of wanting to know other lawyers because of that Martindale Hubble thing, I didn't really have a particular target. Like, the advice that you get is usually market towards the potential clients, right? And I totally ignored that advice. I just went to all the events I got invited to. I just never said no to anything. But the end result was I really focused on the legal profession. So it was the Law Alumni Association for UM. It was the Coral Gables Bar Association. It was the Dade County Bar Association. And I just, whenever I saw something that wasn't working, I volunteered to help. So, for instance, the Coral Gables Bar, I got involved because they had a website that was out of date, and I went to their luncheon, but it was the wrong day. So I showed up a week early to the luncheon, And the next week I showed up and I said, hi, your website's out of date. Can I fix it for you? And the next thing I know, boom, I'm on the board, and they made me treasurer, and then I moved up the ladder and became president. And the same thing happened with the Law Alumni Association. They had like no interest in the young alumni.
This is University of Miami? Okay.
Correct. And so I got involved with that and helped create a 15-chapter national organization with groups in every major city. And I like fixing things. I like building things. And when I see a mess, I want to clean it up. So that was sort of my shotgun approach.
So maybe I'm hearing kind of just show up as part of it.
Yeah.
Just, but I do hear you saying you kind of know where you get business from. It sounds like attorneys are primarily where a lot of your business comes from. So you target it, and I know I work with a lot of different professionals, realtors, attorneys, different people, and sometimes they're not really sure where to go, but you kind of identified where a lot of your business is coming from, and you just go to those events.
I mean, I wouldn't say that necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah, my referrals often come from attorneys, but they often come from childhood friends.
Okay.
People, especially when I was early in the practice, people who knew me, thought I was smart, and believed that I would care and do a good job for them, are who hired me. So it was just more, that's where I went, and that's as a result where I got clients instead of being a target audience that I was seeking clients from, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and so I know you do a lot of things to kind of keep up with those relationships. So maybe, because I know a lot of times when people hear networking, they think, okay, I'm going to go to an event, I'm going to get a business card, I'm going to give someone my business card, and they say they do that and they don't ever get any business from that, which, I know we both go to a lot of events, and very rarely does that happen where I just go and someone says, oh, great, you do this, I can, give you a case sort of thing. So do you have a process for keeping in contact with those people that maybe, how do you follow up and keep engaged with people that you meet at some of these events?
Well, it's not a perfect system. Most of it is just my ordinary personality. Like, one thing I try to do is get people's cell phone number and put their birthday on my calendar and send out a birthday text message, at least, like a Bitmoji that's Jane with a bunch of balloons, happy birthday, or something like that.
I don't think I got one this year though, but yes.
No, well, that's my bad. See, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
So I try to do that. I try to put them into my newsletter list of subscribers. I send out a monthly newsletter via email, and in my dreams, what I want to do is send a physical birthday card and call them twice a year and ask them for coffee. And but what really ends up happening is when I'm fidgeting, standing in line for something, I'm looking at Facebook and just everything people do. And when I see people at events, I usually remember them. I do my best to just do that whole Napoleon II technique where you memorize someone's name.
No, you're great with names. You're very good with names.
You just try to remember. It takes me a second sometimes. I have to put someone in context. I ran into Netta Gomeshi on the street 3 days ago, and I was like, trial team, Netta. And it took me a second. But I just try to remember names and details about people. If I know someone's having a tough time, going through IVF, which I've done, I'll remember that. Or if I saw a friend whose cat was really ailing and they thought the cat was going to die and the cat turned around, and so I ask about their cat.
So you make it very personal.
Yeah, I try to take a real interest in everybody and know their kids' names and their landmark events that have happened recently and that kind of thing.
I think what I also hear and I know we've talked about before is that it's never perfect. So whatever system it is in any aspect of the business, whether it's the networking, the bringing in business, the hiring, all stages of business, it's a process, and there's not really a in destination, because you might get to where you wanted to get to and then you realize you want to go a little bit further, or you want to go in a different direction. So what would you say to somebody who's maybe wanting to start their own business, wanting to start their own law firm, but just doesn't, they want to do it, but they're hesitant because they maybe have things that are holding them back? I know people have different situations. Maybe they have a newborn, or recently got married, or taking care of parents, whatever. What would your, suggestion be or advice be to them?
Well, I would say avoid learning the hard way as much as you can by reading books. I read like at least a book a week, sometimes more than that. And I have a reading list I suggest to people starting their own firms. Jay Foonberg, How to Start and Build Your Law Practice. Michael Gerber, The E-Myth Attorney. There's a great book by Meister called Managing the Professional Service Firm that would apply to more sophisticated structures, like if you were starting a firm with 25 of your partners from a big firm. Another great choice is Profit First. I recently discovered this, and I wish I had read it early in my career. And then other books like The One Thing has been really helpful, recommended by Sandy Van. It basically tells you to start with one, and then it will propel you to do the next thing and the next thing. And don't try and balance by applying your attention to everything at once, because basically you'll fail at everything at once. But instead, line up your tasks in order of priority, going from most priority to least priority. And what will happen is a snowball effect. So I really needed to hear that, because I love saying yes, I love getting involved, and so I end up kind of stretching myself too thin. And even though I'm pretty competent, if I'm doing too much at the same time, I'll fail. Yeah. So that was really helpful. And another great book, Scaling Up, all about how to take the jump from 10 or so people to like 500, how to grow a business. So I'd say read constantly. I'd say save your money. And I would say just try to keep your overhead as low as possible. Do not buy luxuries. I'm sorry, but Westlaw is a luxury. LexisNexis is a luxury. You get Fast Case for free from the Florida Bar. You can do great legal work with Fast Case. You can go to the law library at the Dade County Courthouse, and for a $100 annual membership, use Westlaw and Lexis for free and all their books. So do not spend on things that are not absolutely necessary.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things about our profession is we don't have, we're not a restaurant. We don't have to take out a huge loan to be able to get, all the cooking equipment, the lease, and all of that. You can really run a pretty successful business up to a certain point with a laptop or a computer and a phone. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's relatively simple in that fact. So maybe final question: what's next for you as far as business or personal, whatever, however you want to address it? What's kind of next for Jane?
Well, professionally, I'm president-elect of the Dade County Bar Association, and I'm really looking forward to that opportunity. Professionally, I have a new partner, Jackie Ladone, who joined me in February, and we're really excited because we have a lot more capacity to help people and do good work faster, better, less expensively. So we're trying to work on building a collections practice that will enable us to serve people who have like a portfolio of collections that they want to act on that they haven't been able to yet. And also inviting business owners who need corporate general counsel and want practical, cost-effective advice to call us up and see if we can help them.
Okay, and so for our viewers, how can they find you? What's the best way to get in contact with you?
Email me at jane@jmuirassociates.com and check out my website, jmuirassociates.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jane. Pleasure speaking with you. Thank you to all the viewers out there. I see people popping in and out. So stay tuned next week. We're probably going to make this a weekly thing. And thank you again for your time. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Justin.